The Japanese involvement in the Philippine Revolution and the Philippine-American War. Japan is widely known for its vicious invasion of the Philippines and war crimes committed during World War II. However, the history between the two countries began from at least the 14th century. The kingdoms in the Philippines and Japan relationship started even before the arrival of the Spanish Empire, which began after the discovery of the Philippines by a Spanish expedition headed by a Portuguese explorer, Ferdinand Magellan, in 1521, and the beginning of Spanish colonization in 1565. As early as the 15th century, the Japanese had settled as merchants and traders in Manila, which is located in the northern part of the Philippines. Thousands of them migrated and assimilated into the local population at the start of the early 16th century. The first known Japanese participation was between the years 1595 and 1597. The Bishop of Nueva Segovia in the Philippines, Miguel de Benavides, who later became the Archbishop of Manila, reported that some displeased Tagalog people had requested help from Japan's Emperor Chief Advisor Toyotomi Hideyoshi. The request was to drive off their foreign oppressors with the help of Japanese settlers who served as messengers to convince Hideyoshi. As a response, Hideyoshi threatened the Spanish to leave or face a full-scale Japanese invasion. But at that time, he was busy with the Japanese conquest of Korea to wage another invasion, and it was near his decline in power, followed by his death the following year. In the following years, the Japanese were also involved in aiding rebellions against the Spanish, such as the unsuccessful rebellion in Dilao, Manila, the Sangley Rebellion, and the Tondo Conspiracy. Fast forward to the late 19th century, in 1894, according to the Spanish diplomat Francisco de Reynoso, the Japanese offered to buy the Philippines from Spain for £40 million, valued around $6.8 billion, or 330 billion Philippine peso in today's currency. However, the offer was turned down. Another source from an American scholar and journalist Charles Edward Russell, that in 1896, Spain was rumored to have offered to sell the Philippine Islands to Japan for $3 million gold, but the offer was declined. During the Philippine Revolution, the ongoing uprising ignited after the Spaniards executed José Rizal in 1896, a Filipino nationalist who later became the Philippine national hero. Some Filipino insurgents, particularly the Katipunan, a revolutionary society headed by Supreme Leader Andres Bonifacio, requested assistance from the Japanese Meiji government. It is known that Bonifacio had a secret meeting with the Japanese consul in Manila and coincided with a naval visit of a Japanese warship. The Katipunan leaders attempted to buy weapons from officers of the warship, but no deal was made. Delegates were also sent to the Japanese government to solicit funds and military arms. However, the Meiji government of Japan was unable to provide any official assistance due to fear of European retaliation to an Asian nation that would intervene on European-occupied colonies. The spread of the news of Filipinos seeking revolutionary assistance persuaded some Japanese people to support the revolution. They managed to raise funds to purchase weapons, but no record exists that it made its way into the hands of Filipino revolutionists. In December of 1897, a truce between the revolutionists and the Spain was signed by the president of the revolutionary government Emilio Aguinaldo and his top officials as an armistice, an agreement to end the revolution. However, the fighting continued after conditions were not met by the Spanish until the Revolutionary Army's victory and Spain's defeat in the Spanish-American War. In 1898, after the Treaty of Paris, between Spain and the United States, Spain sold the Philippines to the United States for $20 million. The United States disregarded the Philippine Declaration of Independence, which was proclaimed earlier that year. This action made the Filipinos view the Americans as new tyrants rather than liberators. After the mock battle of Manila, a staged battle to fool the Filipinos that Spain and the United States were still at war, the American forces in Manila grew in numbers from 4,000 to 12,000. Aguinaldo did nothing to confront the Americans or investigate their real intentions. On February 4, 1899, the Filipino-American War had erupted between the First Philippine Republic and the United States. Before the war started, the president of the First Philippine Republic, Emilio Aguinaldo, appointed Mariano Ponce as the representative to Japan. Once again, the Filipinos reached for assistance from Japan. Aguinaldo ordered Ponce to seek aid and purchase weapons. During his stay in Japan, Ponce became close friends with the founder and first president of the Chinese Republic, Sun Yat-sen, who later introduced him to a Filipino-Japanese man, Jose Ramos Ishikawa. Ishikawa then helped Ponce in purchasing weapons and ammunition. After discussions and negotiations with the Japanese politicians and military officials, Mariano Ponce succeeded. In June of 1899, the arms and ammunition were loaded into a ship, but it never arrived in the Philippines. The ship sunk before reaching its destination, caused by a typhoon, while passing through the coast of China. Later that month, Japanese retired military officers and volunteers arrived in Manila, most of whom were veterans from the First Sino-Japanese War. They volunteered to serve as advisors to the Philippine Republic's military. Upon their arrival, they met a Japanese businessman named Jose Moritero Tagawa. He arranged their passage from Manila to the headquarters of Emilio Aguinaldo in the province of Tarlac. The names of the Japanese volunteers according to their ranks are Captain Taihara, Captain Chizuno Iwamoto, Lieutenant Sintetu Nishiuchi, Lieutenant Asahiro Anadomi, Lieutenant Keizo Miyai, Lieutenant Kesakichi Mizumati, Sergeant Major Saburo Nakamori, and Sergeant Shinobu Masuda. Captain Chizuno Iwamoto, an army officer, together with Sergeant Major Saburo Nakamori, served as staff officers of Emilio Aguinaldo. After the fall of the First Philippine Republic, Iwamoto returned to Japan. One notable officer was the leader of Japanese volunteers, Captain Taihara. Taihara studied in the Imperial Military Academy and achieved the rank of captain in the Imperial Bodyguard Division. He fought under the command of General Tomas Moscardo in the provinces of Bataan and Zambales and was commended for his gallantry in action. After the Philippine-American War ended, he returned to Japan and fought in the Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905 and promoted to lieutenant colonel. He died in 1933 at the age of 69. In his dying moments, he made a request to his sister or any of his family's heir to report to his grave as soon as the Philippines achieved their independence. It is still unclear what motivated these foreign volunteers to serve in a foreign army, whether they were inspired by political or ideological reasons, or by personal gain, but recalling their long history with the Filipinos, it is possible that they fought to liberate a longtime friend from colonial rule. Hit the like button if you like the video, and the dislike button if you disagree. I would like to hear your honest opinion about the content of the video in the comments section below. And don't forget to share and subscribe on my channel. I will try to improve everything else in my next videos.